Okay, guys, we got another video about Brighter Shores. I've made a video about this in the past. I've talked to my community about it quite a bit, so I thought it would be good to talk about this one. So let's watch it.
RuneScape's greatest asset is being able to pull you into the world of Gielinor and allow you to explore places that are rich with life, danger, and full of excitement. That is the plan Andrew Gower had in place about 25 years ago, when he made the first version of RuneScape, and to this day you can still visit iconic places like Lumbridge, Varrock, Edgeville, and many more that...
Yeah, right. So to start this off, I want to say that I think that is one of the things that has bonded us with this game so much, is the fact that the game is still iconically the same kind of world that it always has been. Old school RuneScape is this sort of through line in all of our existences where we remember being children, and even though the game has changed a little bit and the world isn't exactly what it used to be, in general, most of us can now draw a map of Lumbridge, Varrock, Falador, Port Sarim, Edgeville, and Remington. Most of us can do that at this point. And that's because of how much it's been pounded into us over the last 2 decades of our lifetimes. And I think that people really underestimate how much that has an effect on our desire to play this game. The fact that we have memories that are built into this place. It's like when you go back to your parents' house after you've moved out and it's been years, and you go into your room and you go, oh, this place, I remember the things that I did in this room. It's that kind of feeling. And so you keep coming back to this game over and over and over again.
Were released in 1999. However, due to unforeseeable circumstances, Andrew Gower sold the successful game he built from scratch and instead started working on a new project. It took him over 10 years of planning, building a brand new game engine, and working for thousands of hours, but it might finally start to pay off this year as we're gonna see the release of
September, man. That's what it's only late after September, right? Isn't that what they said? It's going to come out supposedly. I don't know. I don't know if it will or not. I'm ready for it. If it does, I'm going to be hitting, baby. I'm going to be hitting. I've got Guild Wars 2 for a little while. I've got the War Within the end of this month, and then I've got Brighter Shores at the end of next month, all while just playing RuneScape.
Brighter Shores, which is the next generation of RuneScape style MMO, focused on skilling, bossing, quests, and vibrant gameplay. Now, I am certain that Andrew would love to strive away from the RuneScape era and integrate this game as its own universe. But for better or worse, this game has a lot of things in common with RuneScape. So today, I want to go over all the information we currently have available to us and find out what Brighter Shores does better than RuneScape. First of all, and this is the most important aspect above all else, which is that Andrew Gower has promised that he's not gonna make the same mistake again. And unlike in RuneScape, he's never planning to sell this game no matter if it's gonna be successful or not. This is almost a direct quote. The only thing selling this game is gonna give me is money, which I don't need. By selling RuneScape many years ago and being smart about his investments, he doesn't have to worry about financial...
So he's saying that he's basically set for life, so it doesn't matter what people offer him for this game. It doesn't matter whether or not people are going to play it. He doesn't have to make money off of this game. That's great. Very exciting that somebody who made a game that we all know and love now gets to make another game with basically no strings attached to it. They are going to make their vision and have it come to fruition again. That's the way it was when he made RuneScape. He's just a more developed, more successful person now. So theoretically, this game could be better than RuneScape, right? I do have a prediction, and this prediction comes from talking to people about this game, from reading lots of comments about this game. There are 2 camps of people, and they both are not the type of people who I think are going to make a game unbelievably successful. There are the... I don't know about it. I'll try it out. I hope it's really good. And this game will never get me to leave RuneScape. RuneScape is my life. And those are the 2 types of people who are going to play this game. I wonder if this game is going to hit the market of people who play MMOs that aren't RuneScape and bring them in. And if it does that, then I think this game has a really big chance at being successful. Because if you can combine multiple player bases from different games into that, that could work out really well. But if you're trying to just pull a subset of the RuneScape community over to your game, I think that you might have some difficulties making that financially viable over the long run. That being said, I am always super into new MMOs being made. There's not enough of them for me in this world. I want to continue to play more and more. He obviously is someone who really knows how to make a good one. He did it once before and made what I think is maybe the best one that exists. So we're hoping.
Gains anymore, which means there is zero incentive to ever sell this game. This is my personal opinion, but I think Jagex having 5 different owners in the last 10 years has created a lot of obstacles for RuneScape. The game can't reach its full potential if owners of the game are swapped out every few years, because for the current owners the goal will forever and always be the same: make the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time, and that isn't always the best for the game. Well, this isn't likely gonna be the case for Brighter Shores, which already makes me believe that it isn't going to be tainted by greedy businessmen and instead given the thought and love coming from a gamer. Brighter Shores doesn't have a publisher, which means Andrew Gower doesn't have anyone breathing down his neck asking to make more profit every year. It's all about doing it for the love of the game. Now, this was one of the first pieces of information I heard about this game, which actually made me want to do this video in the first place. I mean, how can you not get excited over the fact that the game is made entirely for gamers by gamers?
Totally.
And the publisher who wants to squeeze the most amount of money out of their customers isn't even an option this time around. Secondly, Andrew Gower has stated that the entire economy and the game itself has been built around bots and real-world trading. And that's in a good way. Let me explain. Any older generation MMO, including RuneScape, is firstly built, and once it's completed, the company starts to think about bots and gold sellers, which by that point is already too late. Sometimes developers even encourage players to use bots and open up a gold selling market. That leads to one.
I was made privy to the idea the other day that there's a belief that maybe the bots are actually controlled by Jagex, which
single very bad thing. Which
I
is
love
the
tinfoil
player
hatting.
experience suffers greatly. The most recent example from old school RuneScape is the Leviathan boss. There was a Reddit thread where a player was tracking down the top page of Leviathan kill counts, because guess what? The entire top page is infested by bots, and the script makers managed to get over 15,000 kill count in 48 hours, which equals to roughly about 11 billion GP making into old school RuneScape every single day. And we are just talking about a single boss out of the dozen.
Yeah, so you know, a lot of people are super worried about the bots, and I think that that's sort of driving some of the desire for other games to come into the RuneScape ecosystem. I find it really, really interesting the things that people will kind of go through in order to convince themselves that a game isn't really worth playing, that if this one problem was taken care of, then they would love the game. But I've often found that whenever I hear, and I'm not saying it's not a valid complaint, right? I'm not saying that things don't need to change, but the sort of importance that people put on this concept to me is always odd, because does it really affect you a super large amount, all of the bots that are out there? I mean, I know that it changes prices and it moves things around and it makes things more difficult to sell, but there are definitely circumventions for that. You can play Iron Man, you can do all those things. If you love RuneScape, I guess maybe the reason that you love RuneScape is because of the fact that you can trade and do all of those things. If that's the case, then I totally get this. But I don't know, it's never super affected me that much. I've never been unbelievably worried about what they're doing with the bots. I do like the fact that if I get high gear tier items, then I can sell them for more money. That's a nice thing. I like the fact that bonds are cheaper if bots aren't around. But in general, I don't know. It seems like a super focused on problem. I know that the leaderboards, all those things, there's like an integrity to the game that's kind of being diminished there. But I don't know, man. You know, like, for me, the game is just about playing the game and enjoying that. And I know that for other people, that means a different thing. But I often think that sort of all of the complaints about bots that drive other people away from this game are usually by a pretty small amount of people who are actually worried about that. I find that if you're a player who hasn't really played a lot and doesn't play a lot of games, if you're not a super hardcore MMO player, it's not going to affect you. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to make it out like RuneScape has this massive, unsolvable, absolutely terrible, nobody knows what to do, the world is falling apart bot problem, but they're making pretty good strides towards solving it right now, I think. And also, I think that if you're a new person coming to RuneScape, it's really, I mean, the game's existed for 25 years at this point. You'll be fine. It'll be okay. Don't worry about it.
That the game has. This has massive implications for players who firstly want to hunt this boss for money, because the problem is very simple. They can't keep up with the bots, and that also means the value of uniques are dropping quite fast.
Totally.
And this is a very common occurrence in any MMO. Bots come in, they take all the money. Once the boss becomes useless, they move on to another.
Real quick. I saw an idea before that it's not so much the problem with bots constantly being out there, which that is part of the problem for sure, but there's also a large chunk of it too that nowadays in RuneScape, you don't have items disappearing on death anymore. If someone dies with a blowpipe and they can't get back to that blowpipe in time, they just have to spend a little bit of money and they get it back from Death's Coffer. But back in the day, if you died with a blowpipe on you, there wasn't a blowpipe. If you died with a dragon chain body on you and it was far out somewhere and no one found it and it just disappeared after the timer went off and it was gone 15 20 minutes 10 minutes whatever it was, that item was just out of the economy, and that created this sort of need in the economy for a constant replenishment. But you only need as many of every item as there are people in the economy now who want those items, and that drives up the price or drives down the prices significantly too. And I think that's really interesting. There's no competition for the items anymore.
Andrew Gower knows all of this,
and
he designed the game around exactly that to prevent it from ever happening in Brighter Shores. Unfortunately, we don't know the details quite yet until the game is released, but Andrew has stated multiple times in previous interviews that bots are the biggest issue in RuneScape, and building his very own game engine from scratch will make it extremely difficult for bot makers to—
I'm going to get so much hate for the comments that I made about bots. I get that it's a big problem. I'm just saying, to my own personal experience, whatever, you know. I'll be interested to see how he's actually worked out a way from keeping or a way of keeping bots out of the game. I think that this sort of room-based video game that he's building, where everything's sort of its own little instance and you get pulled into the instances with your friends or people who are like you, sort of makes these micro worlds that might be easier to police, right? That you can sort of see, oh, this person isn't making any friends, this person doesn't have any commonalities with these people, this person, if it's an economy that's being driven mainly by the players and there's no grand exchange, you can see that this person isn't directly interacting with anyone except for this group of 10 bots, and then they're going to go and just sell all of those items to people in the rooms or whatever. That might be a much easier way to target and find out who is actually profiting from the things. That it might be more a sort of layout of the game that will solve it, not so much the underpinning in the code or any sort of red flags that they're teeing off. It's an interesting thing. People don't think about these things that much in the video game design world, but the actual way that you design the game, the actual infrastructure of how you put it together, and I'm not talking about code, I'm talking about on a piece of paper, the things that you decide are going to go into it can have a big effect on how the actual outcome of the player base and the interaction inside of the game takes place. So the fact that he's building all of these little rooms, I find that really interesting. It's almost like Habbo Hotel, but in an MMO, and everything instances in and out. And that's really odd. Really odd. I've never seen, at least in recent years, I haven't seen anyone say that they're going to do this, and it makes me think that he has a reason for it. I theorized before that it might be because it would be cool if you knew that your friend was super into mining, so if you want to find your friend, you just go down to the mine area, and then you can instance into a mine that has him and just a couple other people, and that would be a really cool, very living, feeling world for you to exist in. But after hearing this, that he thinks that he's solved the problem of bots in video games with this video game, it makes me think that maybe the layout of it has something to do with that.
Actively seek out gold farming.
Harder to hide,
and honestly,
that
is great news. Once again, just thinking outside the game, before we even get into the details, those are two big reasons why players could have a very enjoyable gaming experience. And you know something else? I recently found out that over 88% of my viewers aren't subscribed to my channel. So if there was another big reason to join our community,
guys, hit the subscribe button.
Is it. Because
for me.
I'll tell you what, 2024 is going to be a great year, and you don't want to miss out.
Subscribe button.
Thank you very much.
Did it light up when I said subscribe? subscribe.
What about the game itself? Well, we already have tons of information on how the game is gonna work. Many RuneScape players call this the next generation of RuneScape, and that is for one reason. Brighter Shores simply does many things better than RuneScape, and there are game features that I wish we had in our current game. Firstly, I want to talk about one of my personal favorite features, which is the examine options. If you don't know how the examine option works in RuneScape, you can basically click any object, NPC or item in the game and you get back a flavor text. Usually it's pretty basic, sometimes it has good comedic value like the camo top which says examine what. That is some top-notch, dry, British humor. However, for Brighter Shores, the examine options are their own entire...
We had camo days at my high school because I went to the Deep Woods High School, dude. We failed all the math testing in the standardized testing every single year. There was like 0.7% of people who were above passing in that section. So we had camo days because we were legit, and people would come to school in full ghillie suits, dude. It was nuts.
Interface with tons of useful information. This time around, instead of right-clicking an NPC and using examine option, instead a new interface menu is brought up, and it has detailed information about each item. It could be something as simple as broken card, which reads, I hope they were insured. And it's coming in clutch with that same dry humor again. Or it could be a rare item that gives you detailed description on what that item does. In this case, the wrinkled starfish, which costs 380 bronze coins and boosts your stats. Not only that, but the examine cards also hold a lot of other useful information like health bars, combat levels, immunities, and much more. In RuneScape, we have a spell called Monster Examine, which gives all the information to the player after you spend hours completing quests, unlocking spellbooks, and only then you can examine certain monsters. But it seems that for Brighter Shores, this option is available to all players from the beginning, which allows you to strategize against monsters and find their weaknesses. The reason why you would want this system is simple. The combat in Brighter Shores seems to be much more punishing. Once you enter the room, you can't just leave because the exits to the room are locked until you cast an immunity spell, and
that's really cool, actually. So no instant teleporting. Oh, so every encounter you make could be really, really dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. That sounds really cool. This reminds me of playing older games where I mean, it was just dangerous to go out into the world. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I would play RuneScape and try to overcome challenges with basically no items on me because I was afraid of dying and losing my items. This is really cool. Okay, that's really cool.
It'll take some time to activate. The entire purpose of this is so you can't just jump around between different rooms to lose aggro. In fact, funnily enough, this exact system was used in RuneScape Classic 25 years ago, where you couldn't just escape combat anytime you wanted. And getting into the
dude, I remember this menu. Sometimes I just think about RuneScape Classic and it feels like a fever dream because I only played it for 5 or 6 months or so, maybe a little bit longer before RuneScape 2 came around. And just seeing all of this, I forgot about this transparency menu that popped up and you could just switch between all of them. I forgot about the system that they had involved in it. That's so cool.
Wrong fights oftentimes just cause you to die. So you actually had to be careful who you choose to fight, which I think is going to be a great feature in Brighter Shores as well. The other thing that really fascinates me is the 3 classes you are given at the start of the game. This time around, they are all mage classes, but with different styles. Firstly,
So they're just straight up going with a combat. They're all mage, or with a class system, and they're mage styles?
Game. This time around, they are all mage classes, but with different styles. Firstly, I will say that you can purchase membership on one account, and that allows you to play on 3 different characters. So you can try out all the 3 classes the game has to offer without needing to spend extra real-life money. In fact, the game itself is free to play, so you don't even have to pay any money at all. You can just download it once it comes out and give it a try to see if you like it. But let's get back to the classes. So it has 3 of them, and all are identified as mage classes. The first is Cryonite, which is a melee style magic class with ice spells. So for old school RuneScape players, it has some similarities to the Blue Moon armor, which combines magic and melee together for some powerful damage. The second class is Guardian, which has some ranged weaponry and nature magic. And the final class is Hammer Mage, which uses storm magic, and I imagine the power of your spells is also attached to your weapons in some form. Training all of these classes up is going to be much more easier than it currently is in RuneScape. In fact, Andrew seems to even encourage players to gain experience while they are logged out. In this picture you can see the text passive activity until you log back in, meaning you can likely continue to gain experience very slowly in skills even if you don't play. There's actually
Okay, I sort of take back everything that I said at the beginning of this video. There's a pretty good chance that if he makes this game fun to play and gives people a really good reason to play it, that it could take... He knows why RuneScape players play RuneScape, huh? Like, not only does he know why they play RuneScape, he understands the things that makes RuneScape really good. This is sort of what I talked about in my World of Warcraft video the other day, where I said that we were all hopeful for the War Within because of the fact that they are referencing the fact that they know what made World of Warcraft good and what made us all enjoy it and love it. And he's doing that with this. The fact that he's making hybrid classes that actually have a definitive you are this character sort of feeling, but they can do a little bit of everything still. They're going to use weaponry and still have magic, and you can be magic and arrows, or magic and ice and sword and shield, and magic and two hammers. And it makes me feel that he's sort of creating a similar system that will feel like RuneScape without it just being a ripoff of RuneScape. That he in his head has gone, I see what they liked about RuneScape, and they don't even know that they're going to like this more, that this is going to be better. I've been thinking about this for 2-3 decades now. This is the way that it should have been. That makes me feel like that maybe he actually will be able to take over a large part of RuneScape's player base, because, I don't know. I mean, I think that people like RuneScape, and a lot of them don't even really understand what it is about it that's so appealing to them. They sort of have this concept like, I like setting goals and achieving them for myself and all. You could do that in any video game that you play whatsoever. The thing about RuneScape that makes it so appealing is sort of this interesting hybridization of your entire account, that everything interweaves together, and you have reason to do it all. So you don't miss out on anything in RuneScape if you play it as a vanilla main player. If you go in and you do all of the quests, and doing all of the quests necessitates that you get some skills, and getting some skills necessitates that you earn some money, and earning some money necessitates that you kill some enemies, and killing some enemies necessitates that you get some gear, and getting some gear necessitates that you get some skills, and getting some skills necessitates that you train your magic so you can teleport around faster, and training your magic so that you can teleport around faster necessitates that you kill some monsters, and killing some monsters, to kill those monsters you need to unlock them with quests. So that's what RuneScape is really good about. And the fact that he's sort of baking into it of there's going to be tied-in systems from the get-go. I'm setting it up to where there's not going to be any bots. He has all these ideas about how he's going to improve on his previous product. Gives me a lot of hope for this game.
It goes in line with
a lot of hope for this game.
RuneScape ideology as well. Because as cheesy as it
Sorry,
sounds,
I have a lot to say about it. It seems,
which means players just have less time to play.
I feel like I'm getting a glimpse inside of his head by hearing some of these things that he said about it.
No longer it's feasible to spend 12 hours a day just to gain few levels. The skills you train will still...
He knows that people want to AFK this game, that they want to play RuneScape even when they can't play RuneScape, and they're willing to tap on a phone once every 4 minutes in order to continue to play RuneScape. People have literally made AFK games that are ripping off RuneScape. He is making a game that you can literally log out of and still be playing it. Doesn't that sound like something that a RuneScape player would like?
Take time to get the maximum levels, but it's not thousands of hours like it is in RuneScape. Andrew mentioned that they took a lot of inspiration from other tabletop RPGs, so if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons or any other tabletop game in that style, this could be something for you. It also explains the Dial Grid system they have in place. A lot of people are saying the Dial system is very similar to RuneScape, which it does have similarities, but I'd rather say it's much more in line with your average tabletop RPGs, and kinda like rolling the dice on which tile you're gonna land. And it also explains a lot about the rooms, because oftentimes when you play any tabletop game, you have limited space to work with, so every new room is its own adventure. It also helps that when you do go on adventures, you oftentimes don't fall into the same boring grinds over and over again, as it seems there is a lot of activities to do, starting from skilling or combat and even trying out multiple chapters.
The look of it is really nice. RuneScape is a beautiful game in its own right, but it's very simplistic. There aren't a whole bunch of variations in the areas that you go into as far as the set pieces that are going to be in those rooms. If you've seen a range in RuneScape, you've seen most of the ranges in RuneScape. this is cool. This is really cool. Look at this and tell me that you don't want to go and hang out in this room, that you don't want to see what the different cooking pots do, and if it's all the same thing. You don't want to see your character fry up some meat and then go over here and train on this so that it looks like, tell me that you don't want to see that.
Storylines. For example, let's take fishing. The most active method seems to be spearfishing. Then we have firstly the solo fishing methods, and we also have the 2-player fishing, where each player holds one side of the net. Plus also the AFK method I mentioned before, which allows you to log out and still gain fishing experience among other levels. Or in the case of woodcutting, we have things like trimming the trees, using the normal woodcutting methods, or even having two-handed axes, which once again require 2 players to train the skill. So you're not forced to sit in one place for hours to gain experience. The rooms you see on the screen do have limited amount of players in them, and if that exceeds, another instance will be created. These rooms have limits depending on their location. So for example, the marketplace will have more people in them, but something like boss areas are going to be much smaller. This means that you don't have to worry about getting crashed, and you also don't have to worry about word hopping like you do in RuneScape. In simple words, the game detects if you're being crashed by other players, and the best part is all of this will be happening on the back end, so the player has to never worry about any waiting time or loading times. Everything is flowing smoothly when you're jumping from one room to another, and there's no loading screens. Also, my personal favorite part about this is that let's say your friend is fighting a boss and you want to join them. The game will always put you in the same instance, so you don't have to worry about killing the same boss in different rooms. Once you're finished with scaling or bossing, you can either turn your supplies into desired resources or you can sell them at the market.
Andrew's game theory is so good. His design work, his ideology behind what makes a game good, he understands that it's so much about these little tiny things that other people would never think about. He understands, because he plays games, he understands that it's about the feeling of playing the game more than it is about what the game actually is. It doesn't need to be this big flashy game about an assassin on a pirate ship. You don't need all of that. What you need is a game that feels really good while you're playing it, that feels smooth and slick, and it allows you to go and solve a goal for yourself without being too deeply encumbered with problems, that everything is always just a couple of steps away. It might take a little bit of time, but you can see how to get at least to the next part of your goal. And he knows how to make that happen just better than maybe anybody else. The only problem that I have with this idea that he has with this whole rooms are being added as they're needed thing, because I've noticed this playing Guild Wars 2, that occasionally it pops up and it says, hey, you're in an instance that is less populated than we would like it to be. Will you volunteer to move out of this instance so we can close it down? And I don't love those little interruptions to me playing the game, because it reminds me, oh, there's a thing going on behind me. So I hope that doesn't happen with this game, and that it's more natural than that.
The game does have a very interesting currency system where you have...
But I could see people being like, we can break this game if we just all force it to make a whole bunch of these instances and then just refuse to leave them. I could see people doing that.
Golden coins, silver coins, and bronze coins. So basically 1,000 bronze turns into 1 silver, 1,000 silver turns into 1 gold, and
100?
so on. But all of this gold and resources begs one question. How does the game deal with bots and real-world trading? Well, first of all, the game is run on its own self-made engine, made by Andrew himself, which means it's going to be extremely difficult to make bots in the first place. Secondly, the player-to-player trading is only accessed if you buy the membership or the premium pass. So essentially, all the free-to-play players are Iron Man. They can discover new stories, play the game for hours, but if they actually want to trade other players, they need to spend real-life money to gain access to trade.
I think that is totally fine. You know, the longer that I play video games and the longer that I play MMOs especially, the more that I realize that the longer that you can go without allowing yourself to purchase items from an auction house, and you actually learn and increase your game knowledge of what's going on inside of it and where everything comes from and how to get things, and you figure out your collections and all of that, that's really how you enjoy a game. Honestly, building up that knowledge base and committing yourself to that, it just doesn't feel anything like going and getting gold through buying bonds or whatever and buying the item it's such a different feeling whenever you do it yourself. Whenever you spend the hours in Camdesol to try to get those items, it just feels so much better.
which is going to massively limit the amount of bots that enter the game. Overall, it looks like Andrew with few other ex-Jagex moderators have made this as their only project, which is definitely a labor of love similar to how RuneScape development started over 25 years ago. And honestly, given our only options to play RuneScape-like games are RuneScape 3 and Old School RuneScape, it's about time there was some competition in this specific MMO style for Jagex. I think Jagex has been taking advantage of no competition for far too long now, and this is honestly good for everyone, the players and the companies. Competition always brings out the best in these scenarios, and I'm excited to see what everyone is cooking up. But the most important thing here is that RuneScape has proven that this style of MMO already works, and currently I have no reason to think Brighter Shores is gonna be anything else but success. Andrew's heart seems to be in the game development, and I truly hope the game will be good. For his sake and ours, I'm at least giving the respect to try this out myself because he made me addicted to one of his other games that I've now played for almost 20 years. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, consider.
And that's the thing. That's what it really comes down to at the end of the day. It looks fun. It looks quirky. It looks entertaining. There's a lot of interesting things happening on screen whenever I see videos of it. But is it going to addict me? Is it going to be a game that I want to come back to, that when I'm done with it, I think about it? You know, I over the course of this video, I literally was thinking, when I get done with making this video, I can go lay in bed and I can get on my phone and I can go fish for the food that I'm going to need to finish my Camdesol grind and get my mace. As soon as I got done playing Guild Wars and I took care of a couple of things around the house, I immediately started thinking to myself, I could log back in tonight and continue playing my character. And then I think, oh no, I have to film if I do that, and I'm filming, so I can't do that. I can't miss progress. Those games addict you in that way. They're fun. The gameplay loop is really entertaining. And if this game can do that, then I see absolutely no reason why it couldn't be an extremely successful game. And we'll find out. I feel more confident. Last video that I watched, I sort of was on the sort of side, and now I think, no, I think this game is actually going to be pretty cool. I think that it's going to be exciting. September 28th. I don't know why. I just feel like September 28th. Make the game come out, dude. Let me play it. It would be perfect timing for me. Get it out for me, Andrew. Like the video, subscribe to it. It's good stuff. All right, guys, be safe.